If you are shopping for a smartphone with a built-in stylus, you can spend big money on the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, which is terrific but expensive, or far less on LG's Stylo 5, which falls short on performance. Luckily, Motorola's new Moto G Stylus is a strong option for everyone searching in between. The front of the phone is dominated by a 6.4-inch LCD with a small camera notch at the top and minimal bezels. The screen has a 19:9 aspect ratio. It looks crisp and gets bright, making it easy to see in direct sunlight. Colors are slightly cool, but it's a very good display for the price. Like the Moto G Power, the Moto G Stylus ships with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 chipset and 4GB of RAM. Storage comes in at 128GB. If you need more room, the Stylus supports up to 512GB of microSD cards. Performance is solid. We tested the phone with a dozen apps and didn't encounter any lag. Gaming performance is also good. We played Asphalt 8 and PUBG Mobile using Moto Game Time and didn't notice any skipped frames or lag. This phone have triple camera setup on the back. The primary sensor comes in at 48 megapixel with an 1.7 aperture. It supports 4x4 pixel binning for 12 megapixel shots. There's also an ultra-wide 16 megapixel secondary lens as well as a 2 megapixel macro lens. Shots with the primary and secondary lenses in good lighting look crisp and feature excellent depth of field. Shots with the macro lens on the other hand are lacking in fine detail and appear flat. Low light photos with the primary lens are also good, but we notice some loss of fine detail in the foreground, likely due to over-aggressive noise correction. The front-facing camera comes in at 16 megapixel with an 2.0 aperture. The Moto G Stylus supports 4K video at 30 fps. Video is decent but lacks any real depth of field. The same goes for the ultra-wide-angle lens. A 4000 mAh battery provides ample power for the Moto G Stylus. A 10-watt charger is included in the box and the phone supports up to 15-watt fast charging with an optional power adapter. Lots of surveys say the biggest pain point with a smartphone is the battery life, which Motorola's Moto G8 Power look to squash in one very simple way, adding a massive great battery into the handset to give it truly epic battery life. Motorola Moto G8 Power comes with a 6.4-inch LCD touchscreen display with a screen resolution of 720 by 2300 pixels. When dealing with budget phones, you might not expect great performance, but actually we have found the G8 Power to stand in rather well as our day-to-day device. It's not a flagship with the best processor going, but the Snapdragon 655 chipset at its heart is good enough for handling multiple apps and clocks fast enough to handle some gaming too. So if you like a bit of Candy Crush in between Gmail times, then you are covered, no problems there. Even PUBG Mobile runs on lowest graphics settings. It comes with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage. For imaging, the Motorola Moto G8 Power has a quad rear camera setup. It is consisted of a 16 megapixel main camera and a 8 megapixel telephoto lens and a 8 megapixel ultra wide lens and last 2 megapixel macro lens. Up front, this phone makes use of a 16 megapixel camera for selfie duty. You can record 4K video at 30 fps. The much bigger part about the G8 Power's marketing strategy is its battery life. The 5000 mAh cell at its heart is greater than many competitors, making it genuinely long lasting. This battery will last through 24 hours with ease, even during long days with plenty of hotspot use and a couple of hours of gaming. It comes with a 15-watt turbo power charger in the box. Moto G8 Plus has a plastic build and comes in two color options, Cosmic Blue and Crystal Pink. The back panel has a gradient-like glossy finish with the camera modules tucked into the top left corner and the iconic Motorola Battering logo aligned in the middle. On the top edge, there's a microphone and a 3.5mm headphone jack. The Moto G8 Plus has a 6.3 inches screen. It is an IPS LCD panel with a full HD Plus resolution. The screen has 19:9 aspect ratio, which is decent for watching videos. It is suitable for casual viewing and gaming, especially if you are traveling and are always on the go. The Moto G8 Plus is powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 chipset, which we have seen on a few other mid-range phones. This is paired with an Adreno 610 as the GPU. The chip also brings in 3rd generation AI engine. The phone has 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage with an option to expand the storage by up to 512GB via microSD card. This device has a triple rear camera setup. The cameras on the Moto G8 Plus consist of a primary 48 megapixel sensor paired with a 16 megapixel ultra-wide angle lens with a 117 degree field of view and a 5 megapixel depth sensor which assists in portrait mode. On the front there is a 25 megapixel selfie camera housed within the notch cutout. The primary camera can record videos in 4K at 30 fps and Full HD at up to 120 fps. The phone has an electric stabilization in place for videos, which is pretty good at its job of keeping footage stabilized while shooting. The primary 48 megapixel camera captures sharp and colorful images in the daytime. However, during the night the pictures are filled with grains. Moto G8 Plus is powered by a 4000 mAh battery, which is a pretty decent capacity. This device supports 15 watt fast charging with the turbo power adapter provided in the box. The Moto G Power has a 6.4-inch Full HD display with a hole punch that houses the selfie camera. The aesthetic is nice and gives the phone a premium look. It's an attractive screen, vibrant and bright enough to be usable on a sunny day. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 octa-core processor and Qualcomm Adreno 610 GPU. This is a go-to option for a budget phone sold in 2020. Performance usually isn't an issue. Most applications launch in the blink of an eye and run well while active. And while the phone's 4GB of RAM might look just okay on paper, I never ran into issues while swiping between applications. It comes with 64GB of internal storage option. Despite its price tag, the Moto G Power does its best to emulate the camera features of more expensive competitors. It has a triple rear camera setup. It comes with 16 megapixel main rear camera and 8 megapixel ultra-wide with a 118 degree field of view and a 2 megapixel macro camera. There's also a 16 megapixel front-facing camera. The Moto G Power's main camera is capable of capturing 4K video up to 30 frames per second or 1080p video up to 60 fps. Slow motion video can capture up to 120 frames per second at 1080p. This is solid for a budget phone. In good light, photos are decent, but pictures taken indoors or in low light are soft and noisy. The HDR mode works well. The camera system on the Moto G Power is fine for its price. The main selling point of this phone is the massive 5000 mAh battery. It is the largest cell you will find in this price range. The Moto G Power can last 72 hours between charges. It supports 10 watt fast charge. The Motorola One Hyper comes in at a fantastic price given everything it does. The Motorola One Hyper's LCD screen clocks in at 6.5 inches and sports a 19.5:9 aspect ratio, making it taller than most. It's relatively sharp with a similar pixel density to top-enders like the Huawei P30 Pro, but falling behind QHD Plus phones like the OnePlus 70 and Samsung Galaxy S10. Screen clarity is precisely where we would expect it to be. Viewing angles are decent and outdoor visibility is great too, thanks to the solid brightness levels. There's also a dark mode which ensures wading through menus is easy on the eyes. It's firmly a mid-range smartphone, so you can expect a high-end glass and aluminum construction. The back panel on the frame is made of plastic. Powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 675 chipset, the Motorola One Hyper was never going to knock our socks off with its power. That being said, the rest of the UI is nice and nippy, with everything from video playback to multitasking being lag-free. It comes with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. The rear camera is a dual lens setup consisting of a 64 megapixel main sensor and an 8 megapixel ultra-wide snapper. The main lens performs well, giving images that are strong on detail and nicely balanced. Low light performance is also pretty good. Night vision software mode does reduce noise and bring out deeper colors, but even when this mode isn't turned on, the result is still respectable. Additionally, the digital zoom can take advantage of its 64 megapixel resolution when the light is right and take pictures loaded up with a fair amount of detail. Video is shot at Full HD or 4K, with footage looking well stabilized across resolutions. The selfie camera has an unusually high 32 megapixel resolution. The resulting images have good levels of detail. This device is powered by a 4000 mAh battery. The phone also ships with a turbocharger in the box, though how fast this will depend on where in the world you are. In the US, Motorola's One Hyper climbs all the way up to 45 watt charging. Meanwhile, in Europe, it caps out at 27 watt.